What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another video of the Point After Podcast. Here today, week number 2 of the 2022 season, talking about number 10 Baylor versus number 25 BYU. I said it in the beginning of the season that BYU has a chance to make the college football playoff. This is with there still being 4 teams. But they need a lot of help, and one of the things that they need to go their way is they need a win over Baylor. Now, both teams put up big numbers in week number 1. Both teams came away with a win in week number 1. Getting a little tongue-tied. But it's you can kind of throw week 1 out the window except for a few things, and I'll cover that momentarily. For Jaren Hall, 25 for 32, 2 touchdowns, 261 yards through the air for Blake Shapen. 17 for 22, 14, and 2 touchdowns. Both are really good stats, like nothing to really be concerned about. BYU's running back put up 135 yards on the ground and 1 touchdown. And when you look at this, BYU scored 50, Baylor scored 69. There's 2 drastic differences in the teams they played. USF weren't necessarily that good, but they returned 21 starters from 2021, and the only guy they didn't return was the quarterback Gary Bohannon, who led Baylor last year to the Big 12 championship. So let's compare that to who Baylor played in Week 1, Albany, who went 5 for 17 on third downs, only had 1 turnover. So that's not Baylor going out there and forcing turnovers, forcing bad passes. Didn't even throw an interception. So that's not Baylor going out there and just being complete dominant on forcing turnovers and getting the ball back and Baylor putting up points. This was Albany's not that good. Okay, that's basically the clear cut as I can say it. Was Albany just wasn't. They're not good. They needed the paycheck. They came. They got slaughtered, and they went home. And on the other side of that, BYU had a 2.5-hour rain delay, flew to Florida, and still beat USF by 4 scores, something like that. So, drastic differences in their Week 1 opponents. But the key takeaways for me, and what I think this game is going to rely on, is a lot of the things that I covered in the preseason videos for both of these teams. BYU returns 97% of their returning production. Returning production is 97% on defense. On offense, it's 80%. You also return Jaren Hall. You return your head coach. You return your offensive coordinator. There's only 19 teams in FBS that can say that, and you're one of them. Even your opponent can't say that. You don't return your quarterback. Gary Bohannon went to USF. Now, Blake Shapen did play in the conference championship last year, threw for, I think, 3 touchdowns, ended up being, I believe, the MVP of the game as well. So you have stuff going for you if you're Baylor, but you're going to need a lot more. BYU's won 15 of their last 16 games at home, going back to, I believe, that's 2018 or 2019, that run. Pretty impressive. I don't want to miss anything here. I got notes kind of scattered out everywhere. Baylor was 40th in points per game in 2021. They have an experienced O-line. They're going to be able to put up points against Utah. I'm not worried about that. I just got done doing the Alabama-Texas preview video. Texas is going to score on Alabama. It's kind of the same situation here. Baylor's going to be able to put up points. I don't see BYU just coming and completely dominating them. I think this is a really, really close game. BYU is currently minus 2.5. And the way I'm leaning right now is all signs kind of point towards BYU. Now, I'll take the other route and say, here's why BYU won't win the game. Here's what Baylor needs to do to get the upset on the road. You need to score. You need to make BYU get in a shootout with you, and you need to take advantage of that BYU defense. BYU's defense is their strength, mostly because of their returning production, returning 10 of their 11 starters. And they have a really, really good offense. So if you make them get into a shootout and try to keep the crowd out of it. If you're scoring points every time you get the ball and then BYU comes out and they're trying to kill clock, but it doesn't matter because you're scoring points really quickly, that's going to keep the crowd out of it. And the crowd in Provo, that's a huge factor of BYU's success. And keep in mind, BYU doesn't play just some cupcake schedule. I think they played 8 or 9 Power 5 schools in 2022. That's the same as Power 5 schedule, if they were in a conference, and they do go to the Big 12 here soon. But nonetheless, I think BYU wins this one. I do think it is a close game. I don't think it's a 2-point game. I think BYU gets the win and they cover. But here's the thing: if Baylor wins this one, and then Baylor goes on and wins the Big 12, this win's going to do a hell of a lot more than that win against Albany does for them. So if you look at it, what if BYU goes 10-2 and you're Baylor and you go, yeah, but we beat a 10-2 BYU team on the road in Provo. Not only is a win going to look good on the resume, a win is going to do a lot of good for your confidence, especially in a sophomore quarterback with Blake Shapen, who's really just now getting his maybe fifth or sixth start or fifth or sixth game with significant playing time. It's going to do a lot for you and a lot for your program. And Dave Aranda, hell of a coach. He's going to have these guys fired up and ready to go when the ball kicks off at 9 o'clock Central Time. So, I mean, I trust Baylor. Again, it's going to be a close game. I can't emphasize that enough. Both of these teams are very, very evenly matched. I think the odds makers kind of got this wrong. I mean, they're basically saying that if this was in neutral site, Baylor would be a 1-point favorite, or the line would pretty much be even. So I think the crowd goes a little bit more than just 2 points, so 2.5 points in BYU's way. So give me BYU to win, give me BYU to cover. But again, buckle up because this is going to be a really, really good game between two future Big 12 opponents.